Everyone remembers the Ford Mustang as the muscle car legend, the icon, the one that ruled the streets and the sales charts. But here's the shocker. There were years when the Mustang wasn't number one. Some rivals came in, outsold it, and left their tire marks in history. These weren't just fast cars. They were bold, beautiful, and built to steal the Mustang's crown. And yet, most people today have forgotten them. The 1960s were the golden age of muscle. Gas was cheap, horsepower was cheap, and dreams came with chrome bumpers. The Mustang exploded onto the market in 1964, selling over 400,000 units in its first year. It was a cultural earthquake. Every young driver wanted one. But the moment Ford's pony car became a hit, the other giants of Detroit started plotting. They weren't just going to compete, they were going to win. And some did. Take the Chevrolet Camaro. It rolled out in 1966 as Chevy's direct answer to the Mustang. But by the early 1970s, it wasn't just catching up, it was winning. The 1977 Camaro, for example, sold over 218,000 units, while the Mustang struggled with just 153,000. The styling was sleeker, the handling sharper, and in an era where the Mustang was shrinking in size, the Camaro stayed wide and aggressive. People wanted a muscle car that still looked muscular, and Camaro gave them exactly that. Then there was the Pontiac Firebird. Built on the same platform as the Camaro but with a more aggressive attitude, the Firebird didn't just sell, it built a cult following. By the mid-70s, with the Trans Am package stealing the spotlight, the Firebird was outselling the Mustang. The 1979 model year alone sold over 211,000 units, boosted by the fame from the movie Smokey and the Bandit. The Mustang, it wasn't even close, and it wasn't just General Motors taking shots at Ford. Chrysler had its own sales beast, the Dodge Charger. While the Charger is remembered today for its big V8 engines and NASCAR heritage, it was also a showroom killer in the late 60s. The 1968 redesign, with its hidden headlights and Coke bottle shape, was so popular that Dodge sold over 96,000 units, a number that bit directly into Mustang's market. Even the more everyday-looking cars could surprise you. The Chevrolet Chevelle SS wasn't a pony car, but it was pure muscle. In 1970, the SS 454 with the LS6 engine became a legend on the street and a strong seller in dealerships. Buyers looking for big block power without the Mustang's smaller body size, went straight for the Chevelle. And we can't forget the Plymouth Barracuda. It was actually released before the Mustang, but in its 1970-1971 prime. The Cuda with Hemi, or 446-pack power plants, gave buyers something wilder. In certain years, it outsold the Mustang's high-performance trims and dominated in drag racing. By now, you might be realizing something. The Mustang wasn't an unstoppable king. It had real rivals that sometimes took the crown and never looked back. But this is just the beginning. The Mustang had the name, the fame, the commercials, the fan clubs. But that wasn't enough to keep it on top. The truth is, the cars that outsold it had something the Mustang couldn't match at the time. Either more style, more power, or more value for the money. And sometimes, all three. In the late 60s and 70s, car buyers weren't loyal to one badge. They wanted the most exciting thing on the lot. The Camaro, for example, had something that worked perfectly in its favor. It was still fresh. While the Mustang had already been around for years, the Camaro was the new challenger, with a lower, meaner stance, and plenty of engine options. You could get a 6-cylinder if you just wanted the look, or you could go all out with a Z28 or SS 396 and have serious track power. And unlike the Mustang, Camaro buyers in the mid-70s didn't feel like their car had been watered down by downsizing. It still looked like a muscle car, and that mattered. The Firebird took this even further. Pontiac's marketing played heavily on the outlaw image, especially with the Trans Am. By the late 70s, the Mustang had shrunk to the Mustang II, which leaned more toward economy than muscle. The Firebird, on the other hand, was getting movie star fame thanks to Burt Reynolds and Smokey and the Bandit. Buyers wanted that big hood decal, that shaker scoop, and the promise that their car could outrun the law, at least in their imagination. The numbers proved it. The Firebird's sales shot past the Mustang, and for several years, Pontiac's pony was the one dominating the streets. The Dodge Charger used another weapon, raw presence. It was bigger, heavier, and looked like it was built for serious speed. In NASCAR, the Charger was winning races, which meant it was winning showroom battles too. People wanted the car they saw on TV blasting around the track at 180 miles per hour. Ford's Mustang might have been sporty, but the Charger felt like a muscle car with no compromises. Plus, Dodge offered a wide range of trims and engines, letting buyers pick exactly the performance they wanted. The Chevelle SS pulled in a different crowd, people who wanted a muscle car, but one that could also serve as a family car. It had a bigger back seat, more trunk space, and under the hood, it could have the kind of power that made drag racers grin. The 1970 SS 454 LS6, with its advertised 450 horsepower, was a monster. The Mustang couldn't compete with that kind of brute force in a street-legal package. Then there was the Plymouth Barracuda, a car that today is a collector's dream. In its early years, it didn't quite match Mustang's sales, but when the E-body Cuda arrived in 1970, it turned heads everywhere. It had wild colors, pistol grip shifters, and engine choices from a modest 318 to the fire-breathing 426 Hemi-DA. For buyers looking for something unique, something that stood out in a sea of Mustangs, the Cuda was the answer. And for those few peak years, it became the car to have. The reason these cars could beat the Mustang wasn't just about horsepower, it was timing. In the years when Ford was making safer, smaller, and more fuel-conscious Mustangs, these rivals were doubling down on muscle car fantasy. Buyers didn't want economy yet. They still wanted speed, noise, and attitude. And when a car gave them that in a package that looked better than the Mustang, the decision was easy. But the real twist? Many of these wins have been forgotten, buried under the Mustang's long history and continued production. People remember the Mustang because it's still here, but the years when it got beaten are often erased from the story. The Camaro, the Firebird, the Charger, the Chevelle, the Barracuda. For a few glorious years, each one took the sales crown from the Mustang. They were the kings of their time, roaring down the highways, filling up parking lots, and owning Saturday nights at the drag strip. But if they could win so big, why do so many people forget that they ever beat the Mustang? The answer is survival. Ford kept building the Mustang. It adapted, shrank, grew, and reinvented itself through every gas crisis, every emission regulation, and every shift in public taste. When muscle cars died in the mid-70s, the Mustang lived on. It might not have been the most powerful car anymore, but it stayed in showrooms. Year after year, decade after decade, it never left. The rivals? They weren't so lucky. The Camaro stayed strong through the late 70s, but by 2002, sales had fallen so low that Chevrolet pulled the plug. The Firebird ended with it. Both returned in 2010, but for nearly a decade, they were gone. And without fresh models, they faded from memory for younger drivers. The Charger name survived, but the car itself changed completely. After the muscle era, it turned into a big sedan, far from the aggressive coupe that once outsold the Mustang. It took until the mid-2000s for Dodge to bring back real performance under the Charger badge, but by then, the old sales victories were ancient history. The Chevelle disappeared entirely after 1977. No comeback, no revival. The only place you'll see one now is at a classic car show or in an auction listing. The Barracuda? Same fate. It ended in 1974, and Plymouth as a brand vanished in 2001. For many people, if a car isn't in showrooms today, it might as well have never existed. That's why the Mustang story seems bigger. It's still here, still making headlines, still starring in movies, still winning hearts. The rivals that once beat it don't get that kind of spotlight anymore, but in the years they did win, they weren't just good cars. They were the best. They represented a time when automakers built cars without compromise, when style and performance mattered more than anything else. And here's the twist. The same magic that let these cars outsell the Mustang back then could work today. Imagine a modern Barracuda with retro styling and a 700 horsepower engine. Imagine a new Chevelle SS with hybrid tech for instant torque. Imagine a Charger coupe with the stance of the '68 model. If any of these came back with the same daring spirit, they could steal sales from the Mustang all over again. But the real question is, would they? Or has the Mustang's legend grown so large that no rival could truly topple it now? History says it's possible, because history already shows it happened, not once, but many times. The proof is in the sales charts from those golden years, and the memories of the people who were there to see it. So next time someone tells you the Mustang was always the king, you'll know the truth. You'll know about the 5 muscle cars that outsold it. And maybe you'll look at a car show lineup a little differently, knowing that somewhere in the crowd, parked under the summer sun, sits a machine that once took the crown and left the legend in the dust. And who knows, maybe one day, the race will start again.